What is up, guys? It's your girl Elia. Happy New Year. Today is January 6th, 2022. And I know I didn't finish the 5 days till Christmas. And on day 3, I did a gingerbread contest with my nieces and nephew. And side note, if you hear rumbling in the back, it's the washer, okay? Because we're doing laundry today. But I did the gingerbread. Here's a picture proof, okay? However, when I uploaded the footage to my computer, it didn't upload correctly, so it got deleted, and I had deleted it already off my camera, so there's no footage for that. And then for day 5, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I saw the footage and I wasn't feeling it anymore. So as promised, this is the video of my testimony. And I'm so nervous. I got ready and I did my makeup, but I feel like I'm about to cry because it's just so emotional. But yeah, here is to 2022 and here's my testimony. And don't judge me, don't hate me after this. You know, this is something very vulnerable for me. This is something that I in particular don't like to share or talk about. One of my, I guess, my flaws is that I don't let people in too far in to know too much of me. And now that I'm putting it all out, it's just kind of like I have nothing else to hold on to but the hope that it'll go well and that it'll all turn well. So as usual, grace and peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Here goes nothing. Alright, okay, I don't even know where to start. I'm so nervous right now. Oh my god, this is happening. My heart is beating fast as we're speaking. Alright, so if you don't already know, my name is Elia Mayen or Cruz. I have to change it. I got married this year. So Elia Cruz. And my full name is Elia Margarita Mayen or Elia Margarita Cruz. And a lot of people who know me close up know they call me Margarita, but as of late, people have started calling me Elia just because I guess growing up, I didn't like my name Elia because people always mispronounced it. They'd always be like Elia, Elia, but it's Elia, you know, just kind of Elia. So I just, it's grown on me, especially because my husband, he calls me Elia all the time and he introduces me as Elia. And so for some people it gets confusing because they're like, do I call you Margarita? Do I call you Elia? So you know what, call me what you want, but for like public ministry purposes, I guess, and just moving on, I'll just go by Elia. You know, let's just do this. But if you call me Margarita, no biggie. So anywho, I was born on August 21st and I was born and raised in Fairfax, Virginia, and I lived there for 16 years, and I grew up there in a home with like a big backyard, a good sized home. And growing up there was cool because we always, like, elementary school was right behind our house, so we would always just walk through the backyard, walk through the fence, and walk there. High school, I went to Annandale High School for my freshman year, and so I would walk there too. And then middle school, middle school, that was bus. I had to ride the bus to go there. But growing up there, my family or my parents, they got divorced or initiated their divorce when I was like 5, 6 or 7. I don't even remember at this point. Growing up when they were getting divorced, there's just a lot of chaos at home because there's just a lot of inconsistency, a lot of problems and hurt feelings. So when my parents, when my dad had moved out after everything had happened, my home was not a home anymore. And so it more so became when my dad would come to visit us on the weekends, it would just be my parents would be fighting and arguing, and we would just be there. And it created a lot of strain within our relationships. And so, and eventually, because my dad moved out and there was a lot of friction and strain within my parents' relationship, the finances were not in place anymore. And so the home that I lived in went foreclosure. And it was very frustrating and very traumatizing and hurt because I have been through a lot in that home. I got my first kiss in that house, sleepovers in that house. It was just so much fun there. And you know, we lost it because there was foreclosure. We didn't have any money. I remember growing up, and in between the divorce, we went a year, I think almost 2 years with no gas. So our house was gas. and we didn't have anything. So we didn't have the stove and we didn't have hot water. So what we would do for shower is we had a shower, obviously with the bath, and we would get a bucket. We would fill it up, obviously with cold water. And my brother-in-law, he works in drywall, so he had a water heater. We would plug it in, heat up the water in the bucket, and take a shower through there. And I remember my mom had to buy electrical stoves because we didn't have gas. And so we ate from that. And so I remember we always had enough to make ends meet. However, we were always kind of struggling. And so eventually we had to sell the house. My mom didn't have a really place for us to go. And so my dad helped us get a apartment bedroom. Mind you, this apartment is a 2-bedroom apartment and we were renting 1 room. So it was me, my mom, my brother, and my sister that we all shared a room for 1 year. So my sister can graduate high school at Annandale and we all had to share a room for a year. And it sucked, but I guess at that time it wasn't too crazy, but it was a lot. And so then we moved. My sister graduates from Annandale High School, and then we moved to Manassas. And so moved to Manassas in 2011, and I'm turning 15 at this point. And the worst of worst depressions started when I moved to Manassas, because I didn't know anyone. I didn't want to move from what I grew up in, and it was very much out of my comfort zone and a huge change, and I got super depressed. I started starving myself because I felt really insecure and ugly, so I ended up being diagnosed with binge anorexia. Basically, that means, if you don't know, is I would eat for a certain amount of time, for days, and then I wouldn't because I felt like I was getting too fat. So then I would starve myself. And so I remember one summer I was in like the worst of the worst depression. I would stay in my room, I would stay up all night, and it just was not it for me. I just was the worst. I remember I would run all the time, I would work out because I needed to lose the weight and I wasn't eating. And it was just very, very unhealthy. And so then I started my high school, super depressed. I made some friends, started getting involved in some extracurriculars. So I did basketball, I did soccer. I also got in a relationship. He was a senior and I was a sophomore. Oh, just so you know, your girl had some game, okay? And so I guess you know how like they always say there's 3 love. You have your first love, who's like, oh my God, you're so in love and you don't know what you're doing. Second love is like you are in love with this person. You think you're gonna be with them forever, but then you're not, but you've learned so much from that relationship. Then your third love is that one, you're married, that's it, game over, like that's your love of loves, your true love. Well, that's what I went through, okay? So my first love, that was my high school one, and I really love this guy, but let me tell you, and this is not to bash my dad or anything. This is just my dad and his protective instinct. So my boyfriend in high school, he was black, okay? And I told my dad, because I wanted to be open, I wanted a relationship with him. And I'll backtrack a little bit on my dad's relationship with me and all that happened, the trauma and everything. But I remember I was dating this guy and my dad is like, you need to break up with him. You cannot date a black guy. You need to date a guy your own kind. And mind you, that's a cultural thing. That's a lot of cultures. So don't be coming at my dad nor my culture, because that's a cultural thing, okay? It's everywhere. It's world, nationwide. It's everything, okay? And so I remember I'm like, no, you're not gonna tell me who I'm gonna be dating. And I remember me and my dad got in the biggest fight. We stopped talking for months. It was very, very sad. And so I remember that day, horrible. But anywho, so because I wanted to honor my dad and everything, we broke up. And it was just, it sucked. And so then moving on, that sophomore year, junior year, hella depressed. I had in school therapy, also in senior year. And it was very much so hard. I remember I was bullied. There was actually a guy, he subtweeted me. At that time I had Twitter, and he subtweeted me that Margarita should kill herself. And so I don't recall what I did. I don't even know if I did anything to him, but he just did that. And so I remember I was like, you know what, you're probably right. I should probably kill myself. And I remember I went to school that morning. I was crying. I went to go see my in-school therapist, Miss Osborne. She was the best. And she basically made me go tell the vice principal about what happened. And they were going to admit me into a hospital, put me on medication, but I refused. I said I would be okay. And so I told my vice principal, and that kid was suspended. And yeah. And so I also lost a lot of friends who I thought was my best friend at the time. She was always hanging out with other people. She would never make time for me, but we knew we were best friends, so I was confused. And so I remember I texted her one day and I was like, girl, well, you know, you never hang out with me, you never do anything with me, but you're my best friend, you know, what's up? And she said, well, you never want to party, you never want to be part of the crowd. And you know, everyone knew that I was Christian, everyone knew that I didn't do that stuff. And so I told her, I was like, I don't do that stuff, I don't like that stuff. She's like, ha, yay. And so I was really offended because, you know, she didn't understand. Now that I look at it now, like, she really didn't understand. No one understood. I didn't even understand why I didn't do it, but I'm grateful. And so high school wasn't the best for me. I remember senior year, I realized I didn't really have any friends. I probably had a couple, and it was just really hard for me. It was very depressing. And so in 2014, I graduate. I end up going to Nova, and I meet this guy. Well, let me backtrack a little. So when I graduate, I'm dating this. Let me backtrack a little bit more. So senior year, I go to prom, and I go with this guy who is my ex, and we date for a month there, but then life's kind of happening because it's my senior year. My mom, we were always tight with money. We always made enough for all the bills, but we never had extra. And so my mom's desire was always to go to Nevada and move to Las Vegas where my uncles live, because it's cheaper there and affordable, and we would have space and be comfortable there. And so I remember I was dating my ex for a month, and then we broke up because I was like, I can't do this, you know, I'm about to move, like, all of this is too much. And so we broke up. Eventually we ended up staying, and I went to Nova, and so I got back with my ex. And so we dated for 4 years. Again, I was still depressed, and I was super codependent on him. When I look back at it, I feel bad. If you ever see this, ex, I apologize. I hope you're really doing well. But I was very codependent. I blamed a lot on him, and I was super depressed. So we ended up doing long distance because he went away to college, and he just got super consumed and busy with school. I felt really rejected and abandoned, and that goes back from my trauma, which we'll talk about later. And so come visit home, and I would take all his time, and he would not be with his family because he'd be with me. And so it was just a hard balance. It was just a lot. And so we dated for almost 4 years, 3.5 years, and I lost my virginity to this guy. I did have premarital sex. I did. I really thought I was gonna marry this guy too. And so I gave myself to him in the intentions. I'm like, you know what? We're gonna get married anyway. Let's do this. Why not? So I remember I make a trip to his state where he's at for school, and I get a hotel room, and I get this whole shebang, and I'm like, all right, let's do this, okay? And so we did it, and then, you know, it just, the thing with sin is once you've tried it once, you don't go back. You kind of keep going with it. And so we kept going with it. Luckily and gratefully and thankfully, I did not get pregnant, so we're grateful. But yeah, I did lose my virginity to this guy. And so then we broke up in 2018, and I also went to college. You know, after Nova, I went to George Mason University. I got my bachelor's in criminology and law society. My intentions were to go to law school and to be a lawyer because I wanted to defend and advocate and fight the people, you know, put people in jail. But that didn't happen. That wasn't my desire. I remember my undergrad was horrible. It was so depressing. Like, if you ask me how was it, I will tell you it was so bad. Like, I don't remember it because I just zoomed right through it. Like, I didn't really, when I made friends, I lost them. When I went to class, I wasn't there. I was completely distracted, and I can't remember anything really. And so graduated, got out of a relationship and I had started a new job. I was a lawyer assistant and I made some lifelong friends there who I'm still deeply friends with them. Shout out to Nayeli and Carlos, love y'all. I remember when my ex broke up with me when I was working there. Nayeli met me at the bathroom because I was having a whole panic and anxiety attack, and I remember for 3 weeks and I was starving myself, crying every day, super anxious, super like distraught. Mind you, my ex, when he broke up with me, he didn't tell me why. Like, to this day, I don't know why. Well, let me rephrase that. To this day, I never knew his reasoning. However, I know why now. But when he broke up with me, it was just kind of like, yeah, we're just breaking up. Like, it wasn't like, I don't feel like I'm in love with you no more or anything. It was just like, yeah, we're just done. And so I remember I was crying, boo-hooing. I would pray and I'm like, God, like, just put us back together. Like, I have faith, like, you're gonna put us back together. Like, we told his parents, and his parents were like, this is just a phase. Like, this happened to my daughter. Like, you guys will get back together. It'll happen. And so I'm over here holding hope. And then 3 weeks passed and I'm praying. I'm like, God, why? Until I changed my question, my perspective, and it was, all right, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to learn? And mind you, my relationship with God was there. However, it wasn't where it is today. I was very shallow in my relationship with him. And so I get over it. I start healing, and I meet my spiritual father now, Jordan. There's a picture of him. And so I started my deliverance process. If you guys don't know what that is, basically it's just coming out of like bondage and all this. And so I go through deliverance. I remember one of my first services that I went to where I met Jordan was his first conference, which was called Supernatural Millennials, and it was in 2018. And I seen this guy there, and he prayed for me, and it was cool. And I thought he was really cute. Mind you, this is like 2 months after I broke up with my ex. And so I follow this guy on Instagram, and we end up talking. And so as time goes by, we're starting hanging out, and so then, I end up, because of my past and everything, I end up falling in sin again. So I'm immoral once again. And so I'm with this guy on and off. We were never officially dating or anything. It was just kind of like, I like you, you like me, but we know we're not supposed to be together. But I really want to be with you. And so I didn't fully heal from my ex that I dated for 4 years. And so this next guy wasn't a rebound, but it was more so like, I think I really like you because you seem like a godly man. This is something new, something I never tried before. And, I really feel like it could work. But in my mind and everyone around me was like, it will never work. And so I'm on and off with this guy for about a year, and I'm just going through these cycles of just trying to figure out who I am, what I'm doing, while also being in sin with this guy. And so it's just never healthy. It was very toxic. And I also tried redeeming my relationship with my dad and just trying to get through life, still working and trying to get through everything. In 2019, around May, June, I end up getting a new job where I work now. I'm a case manager. I work with troubled youth. And so I start working there. The Lord's blessing me. He sets me on a new path, and I'm still with this ex on and off. In between that, on the off time, I'm talking to another guy, a coworker. And this guy, I'm like, he could be potential. Now that I look back at it, it was a huge mistake. However, I went on a date with this guy, and it was just not good. I didn't do anything with this guy on God. Thank God. Holy One. So glad. I didn't do anything. But this guy, my God, it was just so dramatic. It was just so immature. So then I get out of that, and then I go back with my ex, I guess you could say. And we just kind of keep going with what we're doing. But it's so toxic and it's so bad. And so I end up ensnaring myself in this place where it's like, I'm constantly in sin. I don't feel good enough, but I don't know how to get myself out of it. So then January of 2020 comes, and my husband now, Joel, my sweet Joel, look at him, he's so cute. He slides into my DMs. I ain't gonna let nobody else say nothing else. He did slide into my DMs. He surely did, okay? And so he slid into my DMs and we started talking, and everyone around me is like, he could be it. I think he's it, and I'm over here like, okay. And so we go on this like 4-month plan that we were supposed to go through of consecration. Basically, we were not allowed to text. We were not allowed to hang out. We could only see each other in church or in public. And so I don't want to word curse myself or to be like I'm naturally rebellious, but I'm very defiant when I want something, like I'm gonna go get it. And so while me and Joelle were supposed to be on this consecration thing, we were not, and we would hang out, we would text, but we would be so convicted. Like we weren't doing anything, we weren't sinning or anything, but I would feel so convicted because the Lord was just like, girl, you're supposed to be consecrated, you're supposed to be focusing on me. And so we end up falling, we end up hanging out one time, and then we just kind of sin. And we end up sinning a lot. And for most of you who watch me, you may already know this, but some of you, this may be a shocker. So I am a worship leader at my church. And at that point, I was the only worship leader, really, because our church was growing. And so I was leading worship, but I was also sinning. I was fornicating. I guess that's the word. And some people who may subscribe to me who don't necessarily agree with that, like, how are you can have sex before marriage if it's okay. Well, in my walk and in my life, I can't do everything that everyone else does. And so I was leading worship, and within my church culture, I guess you could say, a lot of them are prophetic meaning like they can read you. They're not psychic, but they can read you. And so the Lord just gives them like perspective and vision. And so they were able to know that I was in sin and that I was fornicating. And so they basically, because I was the only worship leader at that time, I was singing, and they sat me down. And so they basically were like, hey, you need to get your life together. You need to stop sinning and stop having sex before marriage because, it's not good. It's not healthy. And so me and Joelle at that point, we ended up dating, and we struggled still. And then that was through 2020. So I got sat down in February 2021. And I was sat down probably till June of 2021. And in that time period, I was okay. I was like, you know what? I don't need to lead worship. Like, I'm good. Like, I can just focus on myself. I could do all these things. And I was good. Like, the Lord was healing me in certain areas. Like, I was in therapy, and he was just, unraveling me. And then I ended up starting to sing again, but it wasn't in the way that I was used to. And so I started getting upset. So I'm like, I don't like this. Like, this is not what I'm used to. So, okay, in July 2021, on July 17th, Joelle proposed, and we ended up being engaged. And mind you, we are still kind of slipping up at this point, but our goal was to get married in December. We wanted the whole shebang. Like, we wanted to be married and everything, like have the whole wedding dress. I already had like colors and everything that I wanted, but because we were in sin and we were just struggling, we asked the Lord and we prayed, and we're like, all right, God, like, we want to make this right. When can we get married if we got married earlier? And so we both got August. And so we just decided the day that would be right for everyone. And so we got married on August 19th, 2021. And after we got married, approximately 3 weeks after we got married, me and Joel were hanging out, and then all of a sudden I got triggered from the time that I got molested and I was almost raped by who I thought was a friend, and just all the trauma. And so that leads me to explaining what happened when I was a child and all my trauma. And so when I was 5 or 6, I can't even remember the age anymore, my dad, though my parents were divorced, he was still renovating the home we were living in. And so I remember, he built a big clubhouse, playground in the backyard, and he was renovating the rooms, painting them. And so one of his workers, because my dad was the boss, now that I have perspective and I've studied criminology, he was grooming me. And so grooming basically means if someone's a rapist or an abuser and they want to rape a kid or a person, what they're gonna start doing is like, hey, you're really cool, can I be friends with your parents? Let me be friends with your parents. Then they'll get trust with your parents, and then your parents will be like, yeah, you can take care of my kid, no problem. Then, you know, they'll be good, you know, safe within the first couple of times of taking care of the kid, and then eventually, boom, they come in and they start raping the kid. And then that's called grooming, basically preparing and processing to gain relationships so then they can, you know, abuse you. And so basically, this guy, he was a worker, he was very nice to me all the time, and so we would talk, be like, hey, how are you, you know, no biggie. And so I remember the one time that he molested me. I went to lunch with my sister and my mom, and we came home, and so that worker was working in my sister's room. And so the way the room is set up is like, just imagine a box. So you come in the room, and then first thing on your left is the closet. So it's an open closet, rod, shelf, you know, shebang. Then it's the big space. Then if you go straight down from the door, on the corner, right against the wall, is another door, which leads you to the bathroom. And then there's a window there that leads to the front porch. So he's in between the bathroom and the door, and he's working on these shelves, painting, whatever he was doing. And I'm over here hanging on the rod, and he's like, you know, where'd you go? And I was like, I went to lunch with my mom, my sister. And he's like, and you didn't bring me anything? And I was like, no, sorry. And, you know, I was very innocent. And so he's like, he's like, come sit on my lap. And so I remember I sit on his lap because, you know, I thought he was going to hug me. And then he puts his hand, starts moving his hand and starts touching me. And I remember I pull out his hand, and I'm like, and I just kind of run and I hide. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone of this till I was 15. And so I hide, and I remember days would pass, he would still be there, you know, working. And so I remember that one day I was so scared. I think it was the next day, maybe the day after the next, but I go into my sister's room, and they're all at lunch. And so I go to the bathroom where the window is to the front porch, because the workers would eat lunch there. So I would look, and I remember he was there facing the window, and he would just smile, like, and then he'd be like, and even as I'm talking about it, like, I'm remembering it, like, I honestly did not remember that till now. My God. And so he was trying to be like, you know, me going in, and I'm like, no. And so I remember I hide, and I didn't tell anyone. And so from then on, I guess, you know, my innocence was taken. And so I kind of just started becoming more promiscuous as I went into my deeper relationship. So like with my ex, where I lost my virginity, and then with the next guy after that, you know, started doing things with him, and then with Joel. And so it traumatized a lot, and so, or it triggered me a lot. And then with my whole thing with my dad not being there and inconsistent, and even with that, like, just this past year alone, the Lord really revealed to me that whole story. And it was almost like my whole life I was so mad at him for no reason, because I didn't know the full story. And now that I know the full story, like, there's grace and compassion, and I'm able to say, like, my relationship with my father has been redeemed, and is continually being redeemed. And, you know, everything that I've been through obviously is for a reason. You know, depression, suicidal ideation, not even touch on that. You know, when I was super depressed, I thought about ways to kill myself, and my main way was to overdose. But every time my mom would pop up in my head, and I was like, I can't leave her. Like, I can't let her be, like, I can't cause this much pain in her, especially with all that she's been through. My mom growing up, or me growing up, my mom, with the divorce and all the hurt that's happened, she actually had heart attacks. And so the doctor said that, you know, her heart literally broke. Like, she was so hurt, the pressure, overeating, you know, not being healthy, it literally broke. And so she had a heart attack. And so, you know, just growing up, there was just a lot of, you know, things, one thing after another, you know, and it was just a lot. And so I'm able to say today, I'm not where I am, you know, growing up. I'm the first in my family to have a bachelor's degree. I'm the first in my family to have gotten my own apartment on my own, and just, you know, getting married and just building a life for myself. And it's been very hard because it's almost like I put myself on this pedestal that I have to be this certain way, I have to look a certain way, I have to speak a certain way, and in the end I end up hurting people and I end up hurting myself because I'm not being authentic. And so this last year alone, I just learned how to be myself and learning who I am, and I'm continually doing that. And so yeah, this is my testimony. Like, I need Jesus. Like, I mess up all the time. Like, I think I cussed yesterday, probably. And, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. And I'm still learning who I am. I'm still learning what it looks like to be a wife, to be a daughter, to be a worship leader, to be even an influencer if I am one, or just even having a platform, and just making sure that my character is good. And it's just a lot. And so I'm being transparent, like, just talking about everything. Like, if it had not been for God, like, I don't know where I would be. And I'm grateful for the people that the Lord has put in my life and who he took out and how he saved me. You know, I probably could have married that ex of mine and my life would not be where it is, and I probably would hate it just because of everything. Like, if I look back, you know, the life that person had and the dynamic of the family, like, I just wouldn't like it. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I got a second chance, that I'm not bitter anymore, that I'm not stuck in trauma and triggers, that I'm married, and I don't have to, like, I won't have another year of like, oh my God, I fell and had sex and I sinned again. Like, that will never be my life again. And I'm so grateful because God is a God of second chances, in that everything happens for reasons. Like, everything happens for a reason. And there's a lot that I didn't share simply because I need to protect, you know, the people I love, and because I didn't want to put on their business out there and their story. But everything that has transpired in my life has made me who I am today. And I can honestly say that I'm strong, and that I am the beginning of a lot of things. Like, I won't have to live another life where I don't know what it's like to shower with, you know, cold water all the time, or like not have hot water, where I don't have to live a life where I will be divorced, or I will see another divorced family just struggling, and my kids won't have to struggle through that. And I'm a testimony that my kids will be protected, and that they'll be covered, and that they won't be molested or abused, or even emotionally abused, because I grew up emotionally abused just by a lot of people and a lot of things. And just to say that I'm just not the person who I am before. And I'm grateful that you guys even watch me. Like, you guys who are watching me right now, like, I'm grateful that you guys are subscribed and that you guys are for me. Yeah, that's my testimony. I'm sorry if it was kind of everywhere. I'm kind of just in a weird place right now because I was remembering some of the things that I had honestly forgotten. But I'm grateful because I'm not that person anymore. So yeah, per usual, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment anything and everything down below. Grace and peace. I love you. And I will see y'all next week, because I will be posting. If I have any goal in 2022, I will be consistent, because I deserve to be consistent, and I want to build this up. So we're gonna do it. Okay? All right, love y'all again. See ya.